form, or actually just even just keeping the art form alive. Myself being one of them. You know, myself, Luck. I mean, out there was, you know, there were other artists such as, you know, Rozelle, Biz Markie. I mean, Biz Markie was basically the first person to really fully go through it. I mean, you could also credit Dougie Fresh. A lot of people don't talk about Doug being a pioneer of beat rhyming, but the thing is Doug used words and rhymes in the beginning of his style. I mean, people, you know, thought about just the clicks and the percussion and all that, but, you know, people forget that Doug was an MC first. But the whole thing, it wasn't a separate art form. You know, at one point, you know, you had MCs that jumped on the bandwagon at being beatboxers, because at one point that was something that was necessary in hip hop culture during the mid 80s to late 80s, and then the art form for all intents and purposes died down. And you know what happened was, when you had people that stood out and stood through to the craft, you had people that would keep it going on. Now, one of the things why people liked Rozelle so much is not only just what he did, you know, added, you know, just vocally or whatever, is because he had the voices and all of that. When you add voice to beats, it adds a whole nother dimension. So beat rhyming is beat rhyming, the coining, the phrase, and the whole nine is an evolution of it. I mean, because a lot of times, you know, you'll have an art form like, okay, what is it? You know, this thing, what is this thing? Until you have what that thing is, or that thing is called, then a lot of times marketing it becomes easier. You know, that's like, you know, when you look at hip hop for all intents purposes, or rapping, you know, in the roots of everything, there wasn't a name for it. You know, there wasn't a phrase coined for it until a little bit later. You know, when Kool Herc started the art form, it wasn't initially called hip hop, just because it just wasn't a name for it. I mean, so the importance of having a name to it, I mean, I think, you know, it's definitely a good thing. And, you know, Luck helped me see that. I mean, because, you know, when I was doing rap, there wasn't necessarily a name or a catchy name. You know, I would call, you know, when I did what I did, I would call it vocal acrobatics or something like that. Or actually, I'd change it every other week. So there wasn't anything to just stick it to. You know, everybody would be like, oh, well, it's beatboxing. And the thing is people would say, oh, it's beatboxing because it was closest to, you know, relating to just beatboxing. I mean, but the thing is with beat rhyming, first off, every beatboxer, it's not something that every beatboxer necessarily chooses to do. I won't say that they can't do, because the thing is, I mean, I feel like you could do anything that you put your mind and your soul to, but they choose not to. And as seeing it as an evolution of the art form of beatboxing, and also an evolution of the art form of MCing, you know, a lot more people will recognize it and figure out ways to be able to advance. I mean, right now, I personally feel like I think the movement of it is a great thing, but I think that it's you know, it's in its infancy. You know, even though not necessarily to me, it's in the infancy. I'm watching, I'm like, oh wow, this is dope. This is dope to be able to see some of the same people that are like, you know what? Yeah, rhyming and beatboxing, I don't know about that. That might be sort of gimmicky. You know, I mean, I've heard that for years. Pretty much, I've actually heard that for over 20 years. And I'm dating myself a little bit, but I've heard that for over like 20 years. And the thing is, now is things are coming around full circle. I mean, in terms of even just, I would say 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, people are like, nah, it'll disappear. Gimmick, cute. But the thing is the future is not only on a performance level, but also looking at songwriting. You know, not just traditional rhyming, but songwriting, and taking the art form in that direction. I mean, because when you think about it, years ago, people said the same thing about rap music or hip-hop music in its different forms or whatever. They'd be like, okay, it'd be something that's going to disappear. You know, they'd be like, oh, it's going to go the way of disco. And the thing is when you think about beat rhyming, or even other mixed vocal arts, that's a whole other term, but other mixed vocal arts, it has different limit. It has no limits. because you can advance it. And as long as you can advance something and experiment and do different things with it and be creative with it, you can push that art form even further. You know, so it's just like, you know, I'm just looking forward to see where everything's gonna go with it, and just like have fun advancing it, but also just like enjoying the ride. I mean, because part of watching something grow, I mean, it's like, you know, when you watch a child grow, you don't necessarily look at the child like, oh, okay, you want to stunt that child's growth. You want to enjoy the ride, and you want to enjoy the process of watching that child grow and being part of helping that child grow. So, you know, it's going to be really interesting and really fun.